What if your hard-won career, your dreams, even your ability to support your loved ones, hung by a thread, threatened by an invisible force, a silent decree that could shatter everything you've built? This isn't a hypothetical. It's happening. And for millions, especially those from Asian countries, the clock is ticking. A seismic shift in US policy is underway, and by 2025, a shocking reality could emerge. Certain Asian countries facing US work ban. Will your country be on this list? The implications are chilling, and the first country on our list will make your jaw drop. Kicking off our alarming list at number 7 is Pakistan. For decades, the US relationship with Pakistan has been, to put it mildly, a roller coaster, a strategic alliance often strained by deep-seated distrust and shifting geopolitical sands. Remember those viral soundbites from the previous Trump administration, accusing Pakistan of nothing but lies and deceit, while cutting billions in vital security aid? That wasn't just rhetoric. That was a clear signal. A profound and public distrust has festered, centered on persistent US concerns about Pakistan's commitment to counterterrorism efforts, its nuclear arsenal, and its complex regional relationships, particularly with Afghanistan and India. Think of it like a fragile business partnership gone sour. Even if you're a diligent, highly skilled employee from that risky company, the American boss might decide to cut ties entirely because they perceive the entire entity as a liability. This risky ally label means that while individual Pakistani workers, from brilliant software engineers in Silicon Valley to dedicated medical professionals across countless US hospitals, and thousands of international students pursuing advanced degrees, are often valued for their individual contributions, the nation itself is viewed through a lens of deep suspicion. The fear, often fueled by political narratives, is that individuals, even those with no criminal history or extremist leanings, might pose a national security threat due to their country of origin, or that Pakistan's internal issues make it a difficult, unreliable partner for information sharing and security vetting. This perceived unreliability directly translates into immigration policy. If current US policy directions continue, and particularly if a more nationalistic or protectionist administration takes hold, we could see a drastic reduction in the issuance of various work visas for Pakistani nationals. We're talking about a potential freezing of H-1B visas for tech workers, a tightening of L-1 visas for intracompany transfers, and even a significant slowdown or outright halt in green card processing. Imagine a young Pakistani doctor, fresh out of residency in the US, ready to take on a critical role in a rural American hospital, only to find their visa extension denied due to a broad, nationality-based policy. Or an IT professional, whose cutting-edge skills are in high demand, suddenly facing the threat of deportation because of diplomatic tensions beyond their control. The economic repercussions would be immediate and severe, both for Pakistan and for the US. For Pakistan, remittances from its diaspora are a crucial lifeline, supporting millions of families. A work ban would choke this flow, exacerbating economic instability. For the US, it means losing highly qualified talent in critical sectors where shortages already exist. Think of the thousands of Pakistani-American entrepreneurs creating jobs and contributing to the US economy. Their growth could be stifled. The human cost is immense, families separated, careers derailed, and lives uprooted, all based on a sweeping policy that makes no exceptions for individual merit or loyalty. It cultivates a sense of despair and injustice. This isn't just a political chess game, it's a direct threat to thousands of livelihoods and families who have built their lives and careers in the United States, believing in its promise of opportunity. But here's where things get worse. The next country on our list faces a ban for a reason that targets a fundamental, deeply personal aspect of their identity, a reason that directly contradicts the very ideals America often proclaims. If you thought national security or military cooperation were the only driving factors for these potential work bans, prepare to be profoundly surprised. The next nation on our list isn't targeted for aid issues or direct threats, but for something far more sensitive, something that cuts to the very core of who they are, their culture and specifically their religion. How could America, a beacon of diversity, a nation built on religious freedom, potentially institute a US work ban in 2025 based on such a deeply personal and constitutionally protected aspect? And what chilling precedent does this set for every other diverse community, every other faith, seeking opportunity and sanctuary in the land of the free? This is a question that challenges the very soul of America. At number 6 on our alarming list is Indonesia, the world's largest Muslim-majority nation. On the surface, Indonesia has maintained largely peaceful, even cooperative, diplomatic ties with the US. It's a key partner in Southeast Asia, vital for regional stability and trade. So why would such a nation, whose people are known for their warmth and hospitality, find itself on a list of Asian countries facing US work ban? The answer, unfortunately, lies not in overt political conflict, but in a persistent underlying perception, a lingering religious and cultural fear that has shadowed US immigration debates for years. Remember the controversial Muslim ban from a previous administration? While Indonesia was never officially listed, hints of its expansion always loomed large. The argument, from a certain political perspective, is often, we can't take chances. It's a broad-brush approach that views entire populations, particularly those from Muslim-majority countries, as inherently high risk for potential radicalization or cultural incompatibility, even in the complete absence of concrete evidence for the vast majority of individuals. It's a policy driven by suspicion, not by facts. This narrative suggests that simply belonging to a certain religious demographic, regardless of your personal beliefs or actions, is enough to warrant suspicion and exclusion. For the tens of thousands of hard-working Indonesians currently thriving in the US, from innovative tech professionals in bustling urban centers, to vital hospitality workers ensuring your comfort in hotels and resorts, to the thousands of international students pursuing higher education, this isn't just an abstract policy debate. It's a deeply personal, potentially devastating nightmare. Imagine being an Indonesian software developer, whose skills are in high demand, with a thriving career and a young family, only to face the crushing reality that your H-1B visa renewal is denied, or your green card application frozen, solely because of your nationality and faith. Or a talented chef, whose culinary art enriches American dining, suddenly finds their work permit revoked. The impact on individuals is profound. It's a threat to livelihoods, to stable futures, and to the very sense of belonging. The emotional toll of being branded as a risk based on your background, rather than your character or contributions, is immense. It creates a chilling effect, making vibrant communities feel unwelcome and marginalized. Economically, the US stands to lose valuable talent and economic contributions. Indonesian immigrants contribute to various sectors, bringing unique perspectives and skills. Their entrepreneurial spirit also adds to local economies. Conversely, for Indonesia, remittances from its diaspora are a source of foreign exchange and poverty alleviation. A work ban would not only impact these financial flows but also strain diplomatic relations with a key regional partner in Southeast Asia. This would signal to the world that America's doors are not as open as its rhetoric suggests, particularly when it comes to certain faiths. This is a policy driven by a dangerous perception, not by the reality of peaceful, hard-working people. But that's just the beginning. The next country on our list faces a ban tied to something far more tangible, yet equally frustrating, a problem rooted in bureaucracy and verification that casts a long shadow over thousands of innocent lives. If national security and religious perceptions are two ominous pillars of potential work bans, the third hits closer to home for anyone who's ever dealt with a mountain of paperwork, trust, or more accurately, a perceived lack thereof. How can an entire nation's ability to send its diligent workers to the US be jeopardized by something as seemingly mundane as document verification or a perceived failure in international information sharing? What happens when the system assumes guilt before innocence, when a few bad actors cast a shadow over millions of honest intentions? This trust deficit creates a nearly insurmountable bureaucratic wall. And which vibrant Asian country, known for its burgeoning economy and skilled professionals, is now struggling to prove its credibility, potentially leading to a devastating US work ban in 2025? Coming in at number 5 on our list of Asian countries facing US work ban in 2025 is Malaysia. This inclusion might surprise many, as Malaysia has generally maintained a positive, albeit less prominent, relationship with the US compared to some other Asian nations. It's a country known for its economic dynamism, multicultural society, and growing presence in global trade. However, under a more stringent America First or stricter enforcement lens, older, often overlooked concerns resurface with alarming intensity. The core issue here isn't terrorism, religious bias, or even sheer numbers of immigrants, but rather immigration control and fraud prevention, specifically, perceived weaknesses in document security and a lack of robust data sharing cooperation with US authorities. The US has, at various times, expressed anxieties over isolated instances of counterfeit Malaysian passports being used by international criminals or individuals attempting to bypass strict immigration procedures. While these incidents might be rare in the grand scheme of things, they are flagged as systemic vulnerabilities. Think of it like a highly secure building that discovers a single weak point in its perimeter. Even if only one person exploits it, the entire security system is questioned, and radical measures might be implemented to fix the perceived flaw, regardless of how minor it actually is. This verification vexation means that even minor, isolated instances of fraud or perceived non-cooperation from a few bad actors can trigger widespread restrictions, punishing an entire nation. For the vast majority of Malaysian immigrants who are law-abiding, highly educated professionals, students pursuing cutting-edge research, tech workers driving innovation in American companies, and business professionals contributing positively to the US economy, this becomes an incredibly frustrating and unfair burden. Imagine being a Malaysian cybersecurity expert, whose skills are desperately needed in the US, but your visa application is denied or endlessly delayed because your passport, like that of all your compatriots, is now under extreme scrutiny due to historical, isolated fraud cases you had no part in. Or a Malaysian student, dreaming of a US education, suddenly finding the doors slammed shut. If the US deems Malaysia non-cooperative on data sharing or views its document security as inadequate, the consequences could be severe. Work visa approvals could slow to a crawl or even stop entirely, student visas could face higher rejection rates, and even tourist visas might be impacted. The ripple effect would be felt in critical US industries that rely on skilled foreign talent, and it could compel Malaysian professionals to seek opportunities in countries with more welcoming immigration policies, leading to a brain drain away from the US. For Malaysia, it signals a diplomatic headache, requiring extensive efforts to prove its commitment to security standards. It's a situation where the actions of a minuscule fraction cast a long dark shadow over millions of innocent lives. But wait, it gets even more complicated. The next country's fate might be decided by something you rarely think about: how people enter the country, specifically through unauthorized means. You hear about border security on the news, a constant drumbeat of concern. But rarely do you hear about specific nations being targeted for a U.S. work ban in 2025 because of how some of their citizens enter the U.S. through irregular, unauthorized means. This isn't about traditional visa applications or highly skilled professionals. It's about clandestine journeys and border crossings that, even in seemingly small numbers, can trigger massive, disproportionate consequences for an entire population. Which Asian country, a developing nation with a vast diaspora, is now under intense scrutiny because of these unseen pathways, potentially leading to a devastating work ban for even its legal, thriving workforce? And what chilling message does this send to other nations struggling with economic hardship and seeking opportunity abroad? At number 4 on our unsettling list of Asian countries facing U.S. work ban in 2025, we have Bangladesh. This densely populated South Asian nation has, over the years, forged strong ties with the U.S., particularly through its significant contributions to the garment industry, its burgeoning labor force, its presence in healthcare, and its students pursuing education abroad. However, a specific alarming concern is rapidly pushing Bangladesh onto this dangerous list: irregular immigration. U.S. border officials, particularly along the southern border, have reported a notable uptick in Bangladeshi migrants attempting to cross into the U.S. without authorization. These individuals often undertake arduous, perilous journeys, frequently involving complex transit routes through Central America and Mexico. While the overall numbers of Bangladeshi irregular migrants might be comparatively smaller than those from some other regions, this trend has gained significant political visibility and has been flagged as a serious red flag by proponents of stricter immigration enforcement. For those driving the America First agenda, any rise in unauthorized border crossings, regardless of the overall scale or the humanitarian reasons behind it, is perceived as a systemic failure on the part of the origin country to control its citizens and cooperate with international laws. Think of it like a strict school principal who, upon discovering a few students sneaking in through a back alley, decides to lock all gates, punishing everyone, even the thousands of students who diligently use the front door and follow all the rules. This broad-brush approach, unfortunately, doesn't distinguish between the legitimate visa-holding Bangladeshi professionals, the doctors, IT specialists, academics, and entrepreneurs thriving in the U.S., and the desperate few attempting irregular entry. The consequences of this irregular entry backlash are severe. A potential U.S. work ban in 2025 could mean outright visa denials for skilled Bangladeshi workers seeking to fill critical labor shortages in the U.S. It could lead to increased deportation risks for those already here on temporary visas, and significantly tighter restrictions on future job opportunities. Perhaps most heartbreakingly, family reunification petitions, which are a vital lifeline for countless Bangladeshi families hoping to join loved ones in the U.S., could face agonizing delays or outright denials. The economic impact on Bangladesh, a nation heavily reliant on remittances from its diaspora, would be profound. These funds are crucial for supporting families, driving local economies, and alleviating poverty. For the U.S., while the focus is on control, the long-term cost could be a loss of valuable human capital and a reputation for harsh, indiscriminate policies. Avoiding such a ban for Bangladesh would likely require proving dramatically stronger border control cooperation, addressing U.S. concerns about documentation, and demonstrating a more effective management of outward migration, a monumental challenge for any developing nation. But the next country on our list faces a unique challenge, one tied to the very integrity of the work application process itself, making it a paper trail problem for the U.S. You work hard, you follow the rules, you submit every document meticulously, trusting the system. But what if a few bad actors, exploiting loopholes or even outright committing fraud, could cast a shadow so wide it ruins it for an entire nation? This isn't about geopolitics, or religious fear, or even widespread irregular entry. It's about the very integrity of the visa system itself, and the frustrating reality that a small number of illicit activities can trigger massive consequences. Which hard-working Asian country, known for its diligent, disciplined workforce, is now under the microscope due to widespread concerns about fraudulent documents and illegal recruitment, potentially leading to a devastating U.S. work ban in 2025? And how can genuine, honest individuals prove their honesty and clear their names when the system is already against them, tainted by the actions of a deceitful few? Sliding into the formidable number 3 spot on our list of Asian countries facing U.S. work ban in 2025 is Vietnam. This might come as a considerable shock to many viewers, as Vietnam has, in recent decades, developed a reputation for its incredibly dedicated, disciplined, and hardworking workforce. Vietnamese immigrants and workers in the U.S. are highly regarded for their resilience, diligence, and entrepreneurial spirit, contributing across a wide spectrum of industries. However, the U.S. government is now paying increasingly close attention to a rising number of concerning cases involving fraudulent documents, deceptive and often illegal recruitment practices, and even human trafficking issues tied to some Vietnamese job seekers. We're talking about instances where certain applicants, often desperate for economic opportunity, submit fabricated work histories, falsified educational credentials, or even outright false sponsorships just to gain entry into the U.S. for employment. Even more tragically, many individuals fall victim to predatory illicit agencies that promise lucrative jobs abroad but end up placing workers in dangerous, exploitative, or undocumented situations upon arrival. This paper trail problem is eroding trust in the entire labor application process originating from Vietnam. From the U.S. perspective, these instances of fraud and trafficking, regardless of their scale, indicate a systemic vulnerability that needs to be addressed with extreme prejudice. Think of it like a meticulous quality control inspector at a factory. If even a small percentage of a product batch shows defects, the entire line might be shut down for investigation, even if the vast majority of products are perfect. The US believes it can't take chances when it comes to the integrity of its visa programs. For the vast majority of Vietnamese workers who are exemplary citizens and contribute immensely to the American economy, from compassionate caregivers providing essential support, to skilled workers in manufacturing and service industries, to rising professionals in tech, this situation casts a long, unfair shadow. Imagine being a devoted caregiver, providing crucial support to an elderly American, whose job offer is suddenly rescinded or whose visa renewal is denied because of a sweeping policy aimed at combating fraud that you had no part in. Or a talented factory worker, known for their reliability, suddenly finding their path to legitimate employment in the US blocked. The consequences could be far-reaching and devastating. The US could decide to impose a severe pause or significantly limit work visa approvals from Vietnam, or implement even stricter rules and deeper background checks across the board. This could affect thousands of families who rely on remittances from relatives working abroad, severing a crucial economic lifeline. It would also impact US employers who have come to rely on Vietnamese workers for their specific skills and work ethic, potentially leading to labor shortages in critical sectors. It's a tragic case of a few bad actors spoiling the barrel, and it highlights how even seemingly minor integrity issues can lead to a sweeping US work ban in 2025. This policy, born out of a desire for security and integrity, risks punishing an entire population for the misdeeds of a desperate or deceitful few. But if you think that's unfair, wait until you hear about country number 2, a global tech powerhouse facing a potential ban for reasons that could send shockwaves through Silicon Valley and cripple American innovation. Imagine being so successful, so integral to America's booming tech industry, so fundamental to its innovation and economic growth, that your very success becomes the reason you're targeted. This isn't about national security threats, or widespread fraud, or even irregular border entries. It's about a highly skilled, incredibly productive workforce, critical to the very fabric of American prosperity, suddenly finding itself caught in the crosshairs of a protectionist agenda. Which Asian country, a major global tech and economic leader, faces a US work ban in 2025 that could send shockwaves through Silicon Valley, devastate countless American companies, and fundamentally cripple US competitiveness on the world stage? And what does this mean for the future of American innovation itself, if it chooses to shut its doors to the very talent that fuels its progress? At the formidable number 2 spot on our list of Asian countries facing US work ban in 2025 is India. This one will undoubtedly hit home for many, as India and the US share incredibly deep, complex, and vital diplomatic, economic, and cultural ties. India is not just a strategic partner, it is a primary source of highly skilled talent that has profoundly shaped and fueled America's technology sector, medical fields, and research institutions. So, why would such a crucial ally and a source of so much innovation face a potential US work ban in 2025? The answer lies squarely in the highly debated and politically charged H-1B visa program. From a certain America First perspective, the H-1B program has been repeatedly criticized as a pathway for foreign workers to take American jobs, rather than supplementing a workforce with specialized skills. Despite numerous independent studies demonstrating that Indian tech workers often fill critical labor gaps in STEM fields where US talent is scarce, and that they often create more jobs for Americans, the political narrative persists. Administrations favoring tighter immigration have consistently tightened H-1B rules, dramatically increased denial rates, and pushed for higher salary requirements for visa approvals, all under the guise of protecting American workers. Imagine being a brilliant Indian software engineer from Bengaluru, with a coveted job offer from a top US tech firm in Silicon Valley, ready to innovate and contribute, only to be denied an H-1B visa or see your existing one revoked due to an overarching policy aimed at protecting American jobs, even when no American is readily available or equally qualified for that specific role. This H-1B headache is more than just a bureaucratic hurdle. It's a potential catastrophic blow for countless Indian professionals, their families on dependent visas, like the H-4, and even their long-standing green card applications, which can already take decades to process for Indian nationals. The economic repercussions for the US would be immense. Tech firms, from startups to giants like Google and Microsoft, are heavily reliant on Indian talent to drive innovation and maintain their global competitive edge. A significant US work ban in 2025 on Indian professionals could lead to a massive brain drain, compelling this highly skilled workforce to seek opportunities in Canada, the UK, Europe, or even return to India, taking their invaluable expertise and entrepreneurial spirit with them. This would not only slow down American innovation, but could also see critical projects stalled and industries losing their competitive advantage. For India, a country that relies heavily on remittances from its vast diaspora and views the US as a critical partner for economic and technological growth, such a ban would be a severe diplomatic and economic blow. While India will undoubtedly fight back diplomatically, the history of previous administrations suggests that once a policy is set, even allies struggle to change a determined political mind. The dream for many Indian students and professionals hoping for the American dream could be paused or outright cancelled, not due to any fault of their own, but due to a political narrative prioritizing perception over economic reality and the benefits of global talent. And if you thought this was unfair, prepare yourself for the most shocking reveal. The The number one country on our list is an incredibly close, historic U.S. ally, vital to its social fabric. Yet it faces a U.S. work ban in 2025 for a reason that will stun you and impact millions of Americans directly. We've walked through geopolitical tensions, religious biases, verification issues, irregular border crossings, and even the brain drain threat to our tech industry. Each story, each country, reveals a different facet of the complex and often unforgiving world of immigration policy. But the number one country on our list is different. This is a nation whose people are not just present in America. They are deeply integrated into its very fabric, often filling the most compassionate, essential, and sometimes thankless roles. Their contributions are undeniable, deeply appreciated by millions of American families. Yet, a seemingly technical, almost bureaucratic reason, one that speaks volumes about systemic issues within U.S. immigration itself, could lead to a catastrophic U.S. work ban in 2025. What is this hidden vulnerability? And why could it devastate not only this vital allied nation but America itself, impacting healthcare, elderly care, and countless homes across the country? The profound, unsettling truth about Asian countries facing U.S. work ban in 2025 is about to be laid bare, and it strikes at the heart of America's own needs. The number one Asian country facing a potential U.S. work ban in 2025 is none other than the Philippines. Yes, you heard that right. This is a country with one of the largest and most established immigrant populations in the U.S., a nation whose people are deeply woven into the very fabric of American society, often serving as the unsung heroes of its most critical sectors. Filipino nurses are legendary for their compassion, skill, and dedication, forming the backbone of countless U.S. hospitals. Filipino caregivers are indispensable, providing vital support and comfort to America's aging population. Their work ethic, adaptability, and cultural emphasis on familial care are qualities that are not just valued but frankly, relied upon daily by millions of American families. So why would this deeply embedded, highly valued community, one that represents such a clear net positive for the United States, find itself on the chopping block for a U.S. work ban in 2025? The answer, incredibly, lies in a seemingly technical, almost bureaucratic reason: visa overstays. Official U.S. government data has consistently shown that Filipinos rank among the top nationalities with high visa overstay rates on both tourist and non-immigrant work visas. From the perspective of strict immigration enforcement, an overstay, regardless of its duration or underlying cause, is a violation of U.S. law. Now, it is absolutely crucial to understand the nuance here. This overstay statistic does not mean the majority of Filipinos are dangerous or intentionally violating laws. On the contrary. For many, these overstays are often the result of agonizingly long green card waiting times, which can stretch for years or even decades due to backlogs in the U.S. immigration system. Others may be facing bureaucratic delays in processing their immigration paperwork, or they simply find themselves in desperate situations where their temporary visa has expired, but they feel compelled to continue working to support families back home, or to continue providing essential care to an American patient who depends on them. For many, it's a gut-wrenching choice between technical compliance and providing for their loved ones or fulfilling a vital service. However, for those pushing for tougher, more restrictive immigration policies, an overstay is an overstay. It's perceived as a sign of weak border control from the originating country and non-compliance with U.S. law. From this perspective, regardless of a humanitarian context or the individual's contributions, the rules are rules, and breaking them, even out of desperation or due to systemic delays, is seen as justification to block future access. Imagine being a dedicated Filipino nurse, providing round-the-clock, life-saving care in an overburdened U.S. hospital, only to have your hard-earned work visa renewal denied, or your green card application jeopardized, because of a blanket policy based on a statistic that encompasses the actions of others or the systemic flaws of the immigration process itself. The consequences of this visa overstay time bomb for the U.S. would be catastrophic. A U.S. work ban in 2025 on Filipino workers would not just hurt the Philippines, it would cripple America itself. Our hospitals, already facing severe nationwide nurse shortages, would plunge into an unprecedented crisis. Our rapidly aging population, increasingly reliant on compassionate and skilled caregivers, would suffer immensely without the Filipino workforce that currently serves as their lifeline. Vital sectors like hospitality, which depend on diligent Filipino workers for seamless operations, would face severe labor gaps. This is a policy that appears to be driven by a rigid adherence to statistics and an emphasis on enforcement optics, potentially sacrificing vital national needs and deep-seated compassionate connections for perceived immigration control. Despite being America's caregiving backbone and a strong historical ally, the Philippines might find itself locked out. Not because of any malicious intent from its people, but because of how a specific segment of U.S. policy defines and reacts to perceived illegal behavior, often overlooking the underlying causes and the immense positive contributions. The impact of such a ban would be deeply personal, profoundly emotional, and devastatingly economic, for both nations.